they don't have sin.
Yeah.
Which is typically like the Christian reason why humans suffer is because we're sinful. And
No.
we have free will.
No.
And we can choose our own.
No, ma'am. Just
But
read the book
why
of Job. Job suffers. His buddies come to him and say, watertight case. We know why you're suffering, Job, because you sinned. Totally wrong. And the book of Job makes that crystal clear.
Have you heard of like Schellenberg's non-resistant non-belief?
No, I haven't. What is that?
There's like 3 basic premises to the argument, but in general, he's saying that if God is all-loving, which in the Christian view he is,
Yes.
there's no reason for there to be people who are not resistant to the idea of God. Like, I would consider myself non-resistant. I'm personally an atheist because that's where the evidence has led me.
Right.
But I have put a lot of effort into trying to figure out the truth. And I would personally say that I'm not resistant to God, but yet I still don't believe in him. And how could an all-loving God allow a case like that to exist?
I would argue that love demands free will. If it ain't free, it ain't love. It's manipulated, it's coerced, but it's not real love. I would argue to really love someone, you got to make a free decision.
The amount of effort that I've put in to figuring out Christianity, learning about Christianity, I personally wasn't raised with any religion.
Yes.
But for some reason, whatever reason, all the evidence that I've come across through reading the Bible, going to church, talking to my Christian friends, listening to debates, something in my psyche has just told me that atheism is more convincing than theism. How is that my fault that the evidence was not convincing enough to me?
Okay, well, what do you mean when you say atheism is more convincing? How is atheism more convincing to you than Jesus Christ?
There's a lot of things that I could say.
We'll just start at the top, the best reasons.
Sure. The first thing that comes to mind is the problem of animal suffering is really difficult to contend with in religion.
Yes.
I know for like the problem of evil, a lot of Christians say like free will, which I understand that argument, but it becomes more difficult when you talk about animal suffering in the wild that doesn't have any human influence, and why would a loving God allow the starvation, disease, predation on billions of animals every day? They're truly suffering.
Yes,
and
there
there's
is.
no promise of heaven for them because in the Christian view, animals don't have souls. So that just seems really unjust to me, and a loving God wouldn't create that type of system.
Okay, I respect your sensitive conscience. Who defines justice? Why are you so outraged that animals suffer innocently? If there is no God, what is, is. It's not good. It's not evil. You use the word evil. Who defines evil? If there is no God, evil is totally subjective, totally relative. It's a crapshoot.
Like in the atheistic worldview, the world that we see totally makes sense. I'm saying that in the evolution, I would expect to see the world that we're observing with the atheistic worldview, but in a Christian worldview, that's where the problem lies. I'm not saying that.
Don't you see the way you're contradicting yourself? What do you mean? In the atheistic worldview, it makes sense. When you're standing here saying the suffering of innocent animals is evil. Well, if there is no God, the suffering of animals is not evil. It just is. And for you to put a value judgment on it, that it's evil or bad, that's your own illusion. That's your own fantasy. The same way for me to say, if he smacks you in the face, that's evil.